Hey, welcome to the first of our March presentations on retiring in colors. I'm Katie Johnson. I live in the U.S., in the north central part of the U.S. I live in Wisconsin, and I'm holding here an awesome set of colors. So these are the retiring colors. You'll have to leave a comment and let me know which one you're most sad about going away. But every year we get a new set of in colors, so there'll be some new ones coming up in May of this year. And the end of April is when these will disappear. In fact, starting next month, it's going to be while supplies last only. Actually, this was a nice set because they all kind of played really well together. Now, in this set of presentations, we're all going to focus on at least one of the retiring colors. I'm going to use all five because they do play really well together. All right, let's take a look at the bundle that I'll be using for my project. This bundle, I actually put a title on my video when I posted it, and I called it an imperfect goodbye to the in colors, but that's because I'm using this stamp set right here. This is called Inspiring Imperfections. It's part of a large suite that includes some beautiful designer paper, but the concept is a Japanese art called Kintsugi. And the concept of Kintsugi, kind of have to understand this for this project. The concept of Kintsugi is that when a piece of pottery broke, they didn't just throw it away, and you could glue it back together, but then people would see the glue. So instead, if it cracked, they filled that crack with gold. Oh my goodness, you've seen some beautiful pottery in antique shops and art galleries where they do it on purpose, and they put all kinds of shiny gold lines going through the crockery. So that's the concept behind here. Before I jump into the project, I'm also going to briefly point out the sentiments that are in here, because this is inspiring imperfections. As humans, we all make mistakes. We're not perfect. We go through difficult times. All of the sentiments in here, except for the thanks, all of the rest of the sentiments sort of can be used for an inspiring card if someone has helped you through a rough time, or if you know someone who's going through a rough time. So like, look at this one. There's beauty in your history. Doesn't matter if you're perfect or imperfect person. I'm here for you, for somebody who's going through a rough time. I know you'll get through this and be stronger for it. You inspire me. You know, this is, and thank you for helping me through this difficult time. This is actually two different stamps. So we've got a couple of beautiful pieces of crockery with that shout out to the concept of Kintsugi. And we have these things, which when I first looked at it, I thought, whoa, those look like lightning bolts, don't they? And then I realized, no, that's so that you can stamp cracks on things, which is what we will be doing in part today. And then a couple of other just little flowers that can go along with it. It is a bundle, so it does come with some stamps that 4 of them are framelits, and we'll cut out the stamped images. There's a little thing over here that does a label. It's got some extra detail dies in here that would just cut out some little flowery images, and it's got these 2 that cut out the stamped thing if you want, or just cut out a piece. And you know what? If you look at them real carefully, this can do double duty. It doesn't have to go with this set and the concept of broken pottery. You could use this for a branch on a tree and put some birds on it or something. Anyway, just saying. All right, so I'm going to put this away. And you saw me talk about these awesome, beautiful, beautiful colors. And I'm going to start you out for the project by making the base. Let me set these off to the side. Just to remind you, I'm Katie Johnson. I'll move that out of the way. And I'm going to pull out what I'm going to use for the base of the card. And now you're looking at it going, wait a minute, you showed us all those gorgeous colors, and now all you're pulling out is neutrals. And that's right. I am pulling out just neutrals to serve as the base so that we can really focus on the colors when we get that far. All right, so for this project, we're going to make this a top folding card, which means that I cut my cardstock vertically. Sorry, distracted. I'm hitting refresh on my screen so I can maybe see things happening in real time and maybe catch anybody making comments. Yay, Vicky, awesome. I actually see things happening. Hopefully I will see everything happening in real time here. If you're watching on the replay, come back and say hi anyway, because I'll notice it. All right, I cut my cardstock vertically, and I'm going to fold it in half so that we have a top folding card. I probably should have scored that, but I'm going to take my bone folder and just really crease it here, and hopefully it doesn't show any wrinkles from being forced into a fold that's against the grain that it wants to do. All right, I'm going to build this in layers, and I'm going to build it from the bottom up. Now, when we do these, we always like to point out extra little tools and the usefulness of them. I pulled out my silicone craft mat. Actually, I'm jumping ahead of myself. The first layer has to be the sentiment. So for this sentiment, I'm going to do There's Beauty in Your History. And this is going to get stamped right on the bottom. And you know what? I pulled this out because it's good for when you're doing adhesive work, but it also makes a nice little pad for stamping on. So give me a minute to get this centered at the bottom. All right, so there's my sentiment at the bottom, and now I'm going to build layers up from that. So the first thing that's going to go on here is a little gold piece, a little gold strip, and this is why I pulled the mat out originally. It's because the gold strip that I'm using is only 1/4 of an inch. Actually, I think I'm going to use this one. It's still too long, but that's all right. So this is 1/4 of an inch thick, and the tape is wider than 1/4 of an inch. It works just fine, but I don't want to get adhesive on my tabletop, so then you want to use something that adhesive doesn't stick to, which is our silicone craft mat. Now, we try to give you measurements as we're going through the project. There's not a whole lot of measurements to this thing, so English versus metric, I said 1/4 inch. I think in metric that's probably like a 1/2 centimeter. The point, there's nothing critical about any of these measurements, so if you're in metric and not in inches, you're just going to go, oh yeah, I know what to do. But I'll bring that back in just a moment. Let me wrap this adhesive around here that's trying to go on the front where my foil is. And then actually, talking about tools that you can buy from Stampin' Up! That I use all the time, I'm using my grid paper down here to line up the bottom of the card and then to line up the gold thing. Now, the purpose of this gold, whoops, let's get it far enough over. The purpose of this gold strip is just to serve as a boundary, okay? A boundary between what's going to be on the top of the card and what's going to be down on the bottom. So my sentiment is down here, and I'm going to get it straight on. Make sure it looks level. I think it looks level enough. Okay, I'm going to come in and put 2 more layers on there, but I'm going to do a little bit of stamping before I do that. So I do want to have a background image up here that represents this broken pottery. Now, for the look, I wanted neutrals, but you can see how much contrast there is here with black. So I didn't want to go with black up there. I wanted something that was a little more muted. This color is basic beige, and I did try basic beige on here and didn't like it, and I'll tell you why. So if you worked with basic beige at all, and I'm telling you it's basic beige, if you don't have it, you're going like, oh yeah, that's kind of browny. It looks kind of neutral, basic beige. But when you get it in hand and you play with it, and especially the ink, it does have a slight greenish tone to it. So I did try stamping basic beige ink on basic beige paper, but what I found was it was like introducing a new color. And hey, we're focusing on these colors right now, so I didn't want to introduce another color to the concept of this card. All right, so we're going with, what did I choose? I chose something very neutral. I chose Smoky Slate, which is very light. It still is in that range of black, but not as intense as the black down there because I want to focus on the sentiment at the bottom of the card. All right, I'm just going to put some random lines in here. If you've ever seen cracked pottery, sometimes the cracks meet, sometimes they don't. So let me try and make a couple. How can I do this? While I'm talking, how can I do this? I'm just filling in the space up here, and I don't need to do it too heavy, especially towards the bottom, because that's where my imagery is going to be, and I'm probably already farther down than I need to be. I don't need to go any lower than that. All right. I'm trying to very carefully maneuver all my ink pads here so I don't mess up and get ink where I don't want it to be. All right, now I'm going to come back in and bring my 2 strips, and I will bring the measurements back in again. Actually, I do need this. And I'm going to pull up one more. This is a little flower stamp from that. So I have some measurements over here on this one. This is an embossed piece that's going to go on the black. Oh, I should show you this folder. This is, I didn't buy this when it first came out, and then I saw all these cool things done with it. This is the Stone and Vine embossing folder. And in the picture, those stones look really obvious. When you look at the embossed piece, we get it angled here so you can see it. You can see those stones, like here's one and here's another one, but this is one of those 3D folders, so there's a lot of depth to this, which is, I think, the reason that I like this folder so much is all the depth that you get. Let's see. Because of the depth, the correct choice for adhesive on here is going to be liquid glue. I tried using my tape on it, and oops, my glue is, hold on. My glue got all gooey at the end. So I need to just take a quick Kleenex and pull off the mess that's on the end of this thing. I think I put it away when it had a blob of glue coming out the bottom. But because of the depth on this folder, I find that glue works a whole lot better as the adhesive of choice. And this will be just fine for holding it onto the black. Now the black will be a smooth surface, so it'll be fine for putting it on tape on the project with the black part. All right, the numbers that I have over here. Let me move this out of the way. And I'm going to come back and trim that off in just a minute. And I'm going to put this on in just a minute. But when I want to point out what the numbers is, my white strip is 1 inch. The black strip is only 1/8 of an inch bigger. Now, this is going to be the insert for my card because it's a colored cardstock. And we like to have a little decoration on the inside of the card. So this is just one of the little flowers that comes in the set. And then I can get my black ink pad out of the way. But the reason for doing these two parts of the card together is so that I can talk about what your eye is accustomed to seeing for framing layers. So this insert is cut a little smaller than the card base, and we leave a framing layer, and in inches, it's pretty typical that people would leave 1/4 inch in size as they go down from the basic beige size to the insert 1/4 inch. So in metric, you know what yours is. And again, I don't know metric well enough to be authoritative, but I'm thinking that it's about 1/2 centimeter. Or yeah, I think about it's 1/2 centimeter. You guys know what it is. I'm going to stop saying centimeters because I'm not knowledgeable and you are. But what I want to point out is we normally go down 1/4 of an inch, but I went down 1/8 of an inch because I particularly wanted just a tiny little bit of hint of the color contrast on there. All right, so I guess I did my snipping too soon because now I'm going to have to snip again after I put this piece on. So this will be the neutral base that my pretty colors are going to go on. And we're just going to trim that off and it will be ready to go. So for the focal point, I'm going to use 3 of the tall vases. But I'm going to do something special to them to really make those colors pop. So I'm going to set this off to the side for just a moment. I'll come back to it when I'm ready. I wanted to have a way to bring all of these colors in. So let us start with one on white paper, clean-ish white paper. And I'll bring back in my ink pad, hopefully not getting things messy. And here is the stamp. And the stamp has lots of gorgeous detail in it, which would be pretty for coloring, right? Oops, only pretty if I actually catch the whole thing. Now, that's not just a product of me and the surface I'm stamping on. It's also a product of not having a just juicy enough ink pad. Although, having said it's not juicy enough, in a minute I'm going to show you what it is juicy enough for. So there is my my stamped image. When I go to color this thing, if I'm good, I just stay in the lines. But I want there to be a lot of pop and contrast on my project. So we'll see. I've talked a little bit here. Our ink pads are juicy enough that you can heat emboss with them, which is what I did on a different one, not this one. I just wanted to show you with this one. I'm going to hold it up here. Can you see the difference between the top and the bottom? I'm hoping that you're going to see this is more intense and black, and that this is a little more muted. That's because the embossing powder is sticking to it. So if your pad is juicy enough, I guess I missed over here because I didn't press hard enough. But if your pad is juicy enough, you can actually heat emboss with the Memento. You can heat emboss with any of our classic inks. All right, I have already done that because obviously I'm not going to bring in my noisy heat gun and have you watch me do that. So here, ooh, catch that glint? See the light sparkle off of there? That is just beautiful. All right, so which of these colors will I be using here? I decided to use the green, obviously, because we've got some leaves in there. And I wanted to use the Pretty in Pink. Which one is your favorite of the in colors? Oh, good morning. Oh, this is awesome. I have a new setup. Hi, Leanne, and hi, Chris. I'm so excited because I actually think I can see the comments as they're coming in. So kudos to me. Yay me for getting it finally figured out. Markers, if you're unfamiliar with them, have two ends. I use the pointy end because I feel like that lets me stay more nicely in the lines. And there's some pretty tiny spaces on this particular image. You'll also notice that I am using the blends, not because I need the blends, but because our classic markers have gone away. So we only carry the blends now. I will also point out when you're doing a project like this one that's got a lot of detail in it, that you're going to be wanting to pay attention and make sure that you catch all the parts you were supposed to catch. So when I say I think I've got all the greens, and then I pull out my pink marker, let's see, I think I went the darker pink for this one. It's nice that the blends come in a light and a dark version of the color. But see, now as soon as I start coloring this flower, got to pay attention on these detail ones. I realize there's another leaf sitting off to the right there. So I'll come back and fill in that leaf. Let's see, there's another bit of flower. Here's a little more bit of flower. And then I'll come back and catch the two little leaves. This will be one of the three, oh, I missed that leaf too, and this one. This will be one of my three, because I want to show off all the colors if I can. So the white makes a nice background for showing off the colors. So there's the Shy Shamrock and the Pretty in Pink. All right, next up, and then I would, that one that was already die cut and stamped. This one, I just die cut the Peach Pie, and I wanted to point out that you can get a really fun look by stamping tone on tone. Now I do have reminders and tips to share. Remember, I stamped that in Smoky Slate. I didn't clean it, so now I'm going to come back and clean that before I stick it in my peach ink pad. Been there, done that. You can leave a comment if you've ever put a previously stamped ink, stamp into an ink pad that wasn't the color that it had on it. All right, so here goes those cracks. Random, tone on tone look. Let me get a couple of places where they kind of cross each other. Isn't this a fun look? I don't know if you are into antiques at all, but I spend a lot of time in antique shops, and so I see things like that often. Some of them that were accidentally broke, but some of them having more art pieces in, and that is not just a fix something that's broke, but it is an art form. Remember, the name is Kintsugi. All right, so there is one more of the 5 in colors, and now I have Petunia Pop and Summer Splash. And I was thinking to myself, how can I combine those two on a third? Because size-wise for that vertical card, all right, if they're going to go like this, there's only going to be room on here for 3. So I had to figure a way to put these other 2 colors in. Let me pull that off to the side here for just a minute. So what I decided to do was to stamp it on black, or actually I'm going to stamp it in the lighter, not the black. I don't want quite so much contrast. I have a whole bunch of them sitting over there, so you're going to see lots of samples that I'm going to pull in, and they're like all different colors that were used. Okay, not using my squirty, just coming in to get the black off so I can bring the gray in. All right, we're going to get a couple here, just a couple to fill in some pretties, maybe just a little bit more off the top. And then a reminder to you that you can actually color with your markers on colored cardstock, and it looks pretty cool actually. So let me just fill in a couple of these flowers, and if you do this, I know the camera is not going to pick it up for you, I'm going to say what's happening, and then I'll do a couple more, and you can kind of try and watch. I'm just bringing that tip down, and with the alcohol ink, my eyes close up are just seeing that ink blend across the paper. It's really kind of fun. All right, here's a big one. Here's a big one. And I'm doing this kind of quickly because I want you to see the end effect here. This is not actually the one that's going to go on my project because I have something else special that I'm going to do. Did you read the description for this video? It's a little clue to what I'm going to do on the end. All right, so that was just quickly so that you could see the use of all of our colors. The Summer Splash with Petunia Pop, the Pecan or Peach Pie all by itself, and then the Pretty in Pink and the Shy Shamrock. All right, so they're going to go on here, but the deal is this is pottery. And I've already got so much glitz and shine on this thing. I'd like my pottery to maybe look a little shiny too, like pottery is supposed to do. So how can I make those things look a little shiny? Well, I get three options for you. One option is I could come in with the Wink of Stella pen. And yes, I can add Wink of Stella to a stamped thing that's already colored and embossed like that. Let's see if that shows up at all. I probably need to rest my elbow on the table. Not showing up because you know what? I think there's just too much glint already from the embossing, the heat embossing. But check out this. I'm just doing a few of them again because this is not the one that's going to go final on my project. So let's see if we can see these. Oh gosh, look at that. Isn't that cool? If I left it this way, this is one of those things that when you put it on a project and you give it to somebody, they take it out, they look at the card, and then they go, ooh, and they look a little closer because their eye just catches all that little glinting. If I didn't have another plan, that's what I would have done. On this one, if I didn't have another plan, what I would have done was I would have stamped it and then right away brought in my clear embossing powder, and I would have heat set it and had clear embossing to make those lines pop. So that's one way, the Wink of Stella, or heat emboss the individual images, or there's something else I could do with heat embossing. And normally when we heat emboss, I just said our ink pads are juicy enough that you can heat emboss with it. Normally we use Versamark. So another thing to do would be to take this image that you've got and put the whole piece of paper down, the whole piece of paper, it's got to be small enough, and just, you know, cover the whole thing with Versamark and then heat emboss with your clear embossing powder. I did that on this one. This is also not the one that's going to go on my final project, and I'll show you why. So first of all, we look at it and we go, oh yeah, that is a cool look. Completely aside from this project, but just a tip for you so you know, my Versamark pad has a little bit of contamination on it, and when I laid it down, that transferred over onto my paper, so that's where all the black spots are. That's not why I'm not going to use this one on my project. The reason I'm not going to use this one on the project is because look at what it did to the color. See, this is the Summer Splash, and this is what it looks like when it's covered with the clear embossing powder. It just kind of changes the optical properties a little bit because there's some thickness to it there, and because the embossing powder maybe didn't get sprinkled all smooth, and so it's maybe a little thicker in some places and thinner in others, and so there's just some optical stuff going on. Plus Versamark is a watermark ink pad, and so it is going to change the color of the paper. So I've told you all the things I'm not going to do. What am I going to do? Here's what I am going to do. Let's see, where's the one that I colored? Well, here's one that I did color. I colored this one. Oh, I colored the one that was already die cut. So here's one before it's die cut. So what I'm going to do is bring back my silicone craft mat, packing tape. Because remember I said this was uneven thickness of the embossing powder, and of course the Versamark itself changes the optical or the color of the paper. Packing tape is not going to change the color of anything. Packing tape is smooth and packing tape is thin. So I don't have to worry about any optical things, but I do have to worry about shape. So the packing tape has to go on with no wrinkles in it, and it has to go on before you die cut it. But now you lay your die cut on top and run it through, and you get something amazing. Just check out this. All shiny and smooth and super pretty, which is what I did for all of the ones that are going to go on today's project. So let's just finish this up real quickly. I have this one done and ready to go. I have this one done and ready to go. It just looks like pottery now, doesn't it? And I have this one done and ready to go. And remember, because you're going for the shape of this, otherwise you'd have to get your scissors out and try to fussy cut it. But I did the packing tape on top of the stamped image and then die cut it. So now they are ready to mount. And now we need to bring in and talk about adhesives and the right adhesive for the project. I'm going for my liquid glue and my silicone craft mat again. Remember, back to this embossing folder, it's thick. So I'm going to use liquid glue on the bottom of each of these, but then the top, I don't want it to look like it's going backwards and downwards on the paper, so I'm going to put dimensionals on those. So let me just put a dab of glue down here, a dab of glue down here, a glab of glue down there, and then we will come in with dimensionals and support the top part of each of these vases. For this, ooh, got some glue up there, but that doesn't matter for you guys. So remember I said that only 3 are going to fit in that space. These are pretty big vases, so for this particular die, I need to be careful about my spacing. And my experience, because of course I made another project before this, is the first one I made, I tried to put the center and I didn't get it centered. So I'm going to go with the 2 side ones first. And I played around with balance and color, and I think it's going to look good this way with the peach one off to the left and the summer splash one with the petunia pop ink on it off to the right. Taking a moment to make sure that they look level, and then my one in the middle that's on white with the pretty in pink and the shy shamrock, and then we have an almost finished card. You'll notice what's happening here, this lifted up, so I need to hold it down for just a minute like we always do when we've got glue. So there's the card almost finished. It is going to get a little bit of bling. Oh, I don't think I got enough glue on there. That's the one that flipped upside down and lost some of its glue up above. So I wanted a little bit of bling, and I decided to pull out these iridescent foil gems. I'm going to hold them up and see if you can see the glisten. There's stuff inside here. Now it is thick, so if you don't like thicker things, it's not real thick, but it's got enough thickness to it that the post office isn't going to be happy. But oh gosh, the shine that you get with these, and it's neutral. It's like it didn't have to have any of these 5 colors in it. It just supports those 5 colors the way that the beige and the gold do. So let me add a couple of these in, and then to finish it off, I've got 2 other samples up there that I just want to show you. So let me pop this over. I'm going to put 2 of these off on the left or right and 1 off on the left. I love my pokey tool for moving them around. I end up having to use my fingernails to loosen it from the base. By the way, this was in the annual catalog, which is retiring, but demonstrators have already seen a list of things that will carry over, and I believe this is one of the products that will carry over. So that one will continue to be available. Guys, this is the finished card. Now let me move this. You don't need to see that anymore. I'm going to bring in 2 more samples to show you. So here is one that I did as a sample ahead of time. They're a little bit different. Well, they're different because this gold is thicker, but they're also different because I did this one as a half cut. Okay, so you can see here, I just cut off the bottom inch, and I put the gold band and the sentiment down on the bottom so they will see it on the inside when you write your greeting. So just a little different way that you can do cards. And then if you like that packing tape idea, here's another one that I did with the Kintsugi set. And again, I did gold heat embossing instead of the black heat embossing. And I colored on the colored cardstock because you can do that. And then I showcased one of the other stamps from that stamp set. This is the die that does the Senate, well, it's a label die. It's got a little bit of rough edges to it. So again, it's not perfect. It's that imperfections. And then I used Versamark because Versamark does discolor the paper. It has a watermark. This is just Versamark with that flower to highlight the end, and the same embossing folder. So hey, if you are inspired to create something based on what you saw here, please make something and post a picture in the comments. We would love to see it. And let me know also in the comments what you think of this packing tape idea, because oh gosh, there's so many. I've used this with so many things. I mean, think about that cute toadstool set. That could look fun with the packing tape on it. Or a big leaf could even look cool with it on it, or something watercolored, or it's just, there's a lot of ways that this is a cheap way to get something smooth, absolutely smooth. So, and remember, if you are inspired to make a purchase, if you do make a purchase this month, you will get the PDF with all of the projects, with the picture and the link to the YouTube videos. But make sure that you make that purchase with the demonstrator who invited you to the event. And if you're watching on replay, or you want to go back and see something again, remember that here in the Facebook group, it's only going to be available for 28 days, and then Facebook takes it down. Hey guys, thank you for joining me today. The next video will be at the top of the hour, and you will be here to see Jackie's performance. So again, I'm Katie Johnson, and thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the comments.